knowledgeable about the classic way of save 20 grand and look for a bank kind of thing. But the different strategies, the ins and out, I guess that's what I'm here to learn.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much indeed for sharing. And just remind me, where are you each calling from? I remember last time a few of you were from London. Joshua, were you from abroad? Were you calling from abroad? Was it?
That's right.
Germany?
So, that's right. Yes, that's right.
Germany. Okay, I remembered. Welcome. Okay, and Rose, remind me where you were from again, please.
Croydon.
Ah, yes, Croydon. My mum's neck of the woods. I know it very well. Okay, Lisa from Robin Hood country. Okay, it's great to have you all on the call again today. Thank you very much indeed. And this is one of my next question is one of my favorite questions, which is, what would you like to get out of the session today? So do pop that in the chat group, in the chat box for me, please. What would you specifically like to get out of the session today? Please add your thoughts to the chat box. Just one sentence will be fine. Okay. Right, so Lisa has said, I just want to hear the questions and see what everyone else is up to. I think that's what you mean. Joshua, I have a question on something called velocity banking. Oh, I have no clue what that means. Paul might know because he's in the finance business. And Rose has said tips on stuff. Okay. Could you elaborate on the stuff, please, Rose?
Anything really, because people do discuss quite a lot, and you do get nuggets out of people's conversations. So just like Lisa up there, you know, I get onto the call to hear what everyone is saying, what everyone is up to, inspiration in you know what other people are getting up to, and you know the way everybody's sharing really.
Okay, thank you very much, Ruth. That's useful to know. And let me ask a further follow-up question, which is, how many of you are actively looking for a deal now? Actively looking right now? Joshua, me. Okay, and Rose, yeah, brilliant. Okay, anyone else actively looking? Okay, not active, says Lisa. And how about yourself, Bethany? You're actively looking as well. Okay, so that's good to know. So 3, Dylan, are you there? No? Okay, so that's good to know that you're actually all actively looking. So my next question is, what are you looking for specifically? So give me an example of the sort of thing that you're looking for, please. If you could each just pop that into the chat box. What are you actively looking for? So if I were to bring you a deal today, what would that deal need to look like? Would it be a buy-to-let in London? Would it be a buy-to-let up north in the Midlands or in Wales? Okay. I'm just going to work through this. So Lisa says bargains, 2 to 3 beds in my neck of the woods, which is Nottingham. Rose, rent to rent, or is that rent to rent HMO you mean, Rose?
Not really, because I think HMO is a bit of work. So I would say rent to rent, single lets or something like that.
Okay, because you've put rent to rent or rent to rent SA and buy to let.
Yeah, right. Rent to rent or rent to SA, where the, you know, serviced accommodation, yes, will be more or less HMO, but I'm mostly into really single lets.
Oh, okay, cool. And is that in London, up north, or somewhere else? I can't remember where you mentioned last time.
Possibly up north. London only if it's rent to rent, so that, because I don't have such a huge deposit for London or anything like that. So up north.
Okay, brilliant. And Joshua, probably outside London with lower entry barrier. Okay. And Bethany, I'm currently looking for properties I can use as BRRR strategy, which is otherwise known as momentum investing. Buy, refurbish, and renovate and refinance, something like that. Momentum, that's generally what it's called. Okay, so that's good to know. And Bethany, if I can just ask you to expand on that, are you talking about buy-to-let type properties, or are you talking about HMO type properties, or are you talking about bungalows? Can you just give a little bit more specificity, please?
Okay, so the BRR is buy, refurbish, refinance, and rent. So obviously I could either choose to flip, but I choose to rent because I want a steady income stream from these properties as well. So I want to keep them as assets that I make money from. And the strategies that I want to use once I own them is HMO.
Okay.
Because it brings in the most money. So I'm not looking for 1 bed, 2 bed. It's going to be along the lines of 3 beds that I can turn into 4, or 4 beds that I can turn into 5s, to be able to sustain HMO.
Okay, brilliant. And are you looking in London or outside London?
I am looking anywhere at the moment. So because I have a certain amount of money to act as a deposit, I would like to take out a bridging loan to use to finance the purchase of a property. So to pay for it in cash, refurbish it within 6 months, so that before 12 months I can refinance and pull out my money so that I can rinse and repeat somewhere else.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. So I'm going to go back to, does anyone else, Dylan, are you back on at all? No? Okay. Right, so I'm going to start with, actually, now that we can see Paul. Paul, did you see the question that Joshua asked? He wants to know about velocity banking. Is that a term you are familiar with? Oh, you're changing your face. That indicates not. Okay, so sorry, Joshua. I'd love to help you, but might be one for Google in the first instance.
Well, the thing is, it's actually quite relevant. Perhaps you don't recognize the terminology, but the idea of it is what I want to ask questions about. I'm pretty sure you'd have an opinion or some experience on it. So the idea behind it is, I mean, that's what the Americans call it. The idea behind it is to perpetually put money into your mortgage to reduce it. Like every 5 to 7 months from your credit card, and repay your credit card as quickly as possible. So my question was, is that possible in Europe? Can you perpetually keep chucking money into your mortgage? And what are the consequences of that? She laughs.
Why would you?
I'm muted. I mean, look, it's normal banking. It's a loan. So if you continually overpay your mortgage, you'll pay it off quicker. There's no doubt about that. The question is, I suppose if you're taking interest-free loans off your credit cards, which is lower than your mortgage rate, then it makes sense. But at any point you get caught in that cycle and you can't get out of the circular credit, then you're going to be left paying 20% when you should have been paying 3%. And with interest rates where they are for mortgages right now, is it even necessary?
Yeah.
I mean, if we were paying 5-6%, it would make sense. But when you could borrow money at 2% less, 2-3%, fixed for 5 years.
So I guess what they did, so first of all, thanks for that. What they assumed is that whatever 20, even 30% of 13 odd grand is a lot, so paid off over 8 months, or however the revolution is, or 7 months, is a lot less than 3% of 250 grand paid over 30 years. And the idea is if you rinse and repeat, and I think they rinse and repeated and ended up saving, I think, about 170 something thousand over 20 years. Well, I mean, they didn't get to 20 years because they paid it off in, I think, 7 years or whatever. But my question is,
go on.
I mean, look, I've seen the Excel, I've seen the financial modeling, I've seen the Excel spreadsheets and stuff. So I know it works, but my question is it even possible in Europe? Because I know that, you know, you get charged for paying more than you ought to.
It depends on what it says. It depends on the agreement that you have with the bank. So you always need to read the small print to see what they say. So there's always value in paying down a mortgage, but remember, as soon as you pay down a mortgage, you're not making the most of leverage, are you? So you've got to think about what's your reason for doing it.
Yeah,
if
I know.
you increase your portfolio, then you don't want to be paying down too early. You want to pay down later, but you want to rinse and repeat initially to build up momentum in order to buy more or acquire more or control more. And then you want to make sure you're not over leveraged, so that if interest rates go berserk and go through the roof, you've still got enough meat in the deal for the mortgage company not to want to say, give us, either sell or give us some money. So,
well, yeah, so you've basically touched where I was going with that, because the idea is you could use that credit card loan to pay into your mortgage, or you could use that credit card loan as a deposit for another property. So, but the question is whether the machinery works or could work.
Depending on the interest rate that's currently available in the marketplace, depending on what you're trying to do. If you're just trying to pay down a loan, it's almost like, why? You want to make the most of leverage. Ultimately, if you understand the power of leverage, it's such a key, it's almost the 9th wonder of the world. Compound interest being the 8th wonder of the world, leverage is the 9th wonder of the world. And if you understand leverage, then that's what you want to be doing in the short term, and in the long term, look to pay down, because you'll just acquire more property. And then obviously the income that you make, or the money the returns that you make from the property that you have, you use to then just keep buying more. But again, it depends on, you've always got to start with your goals and your reason why. Paul.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Hannah said. If you buy more assets and you've got an income, even that income you can use to pay down your mortgage. But to just dump all of your resources, the roof over your head is a liability. It's not an asset, because you've got to live somewhere. So everything, I agree with everything that Hannah said. It's sure, it will work. It will work because the laws of borrowing work the same wherever we are, but does it make sense? Yeah, and that's an individual question for everybody else. So, but thanks. I've just Googled it. I'll look at it. But
what I'd like to cover off in the next few minutes or so. So I see Michelle, you've joined us. Welcome to the call. Can you hear me, Michelle? I see you're on mute at the moment. Okay, so I'm going to assume maybe you're driving or you can't speak at the minute. So what I just really wanted to cover briefly for the rest of the time of the call is in terms of what you guys are actively looking for. So a couple of you have mentioned buy-to-lets. So what I'd like to just explore with you is, give me an example of an area where you would want to buy a buy-to-let property. Let's throw some areas out there. So who said buy-to-let? Nottingham. Should we take Nottingham, since it's what Lisa said? Although Lisa said she's not looking right now actively. So maybe let's look at Rose. Rose, where is an ideal area for you that you would want to buy a property? Doncaster, Stoke-on-Trent. Brilliant. Thank you for those answers. So let me ask you, Rose, in Doncaster or Stoke-on-Trent, how much would it cost you to purchase a buy-to-let property that meets your requirements in either of those areas?
Cost me, or how much do the properties go for?
Yeah.
Well, Doncaster, I was looking at, say, a 4-bedroom house for about £90,000. Been on the market for a very long time.
Yeah.
So I was kind of hoping to get it for below that. Stoke-on-Trent, around £60,000 for a 2-3 bed buy-to-let.
Okay. So if you spend, let's just take the first figure that you gave us, which is, sorry, I'm just a bit behind on the presentation. But if we take the first figure that you gave us of £90,000 for a, how many bedrooms?
4 bedrooms.
4 bedrooms.
It has 4 bedrooms, but it is sort of like being advertised as a 3-bedroom house, because although it was used as a house share before, I think the landlord hasn't got an HMO license. So when they're trying to sell, they've turned it back into a 3-bedroom house with 2 reception rooms. Okay.
So if it's so I guess the question is, would you buy it with a view to taking it on as an HMO, or to keeping it as a single family home?
I wanted to buy it with the view of taking it on as a HMO, because that's when I viewed it, that is what it was, and it was quite a good yield then. As a single let, it's slightly less of a yield for me.
Okay. So if you purchase it for £90,000, how much gross rent do you think you can get from it? If it's a 4-bedroom HMO, I'm assuming.
4-bedroom HMO around £1,200, I should think.
£1,200 per calendar month. Is that gross or net?
Gross.
£1,200 per month. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So if you purchase it for £90,000, what level of deposit would you put into that?
25% really.
Okay. And what does that equal to?
22,500.
Okay. So if you put in a deposit of 22,500, what do you think the repayment on that would be?
22,500 repayment will be about.
Sorry, interest. I mean.
Yeah, interest only about £169 a month.
Okay, 169 per calendar month. And what else do you think you would have to pay for?
The management of the property, so lettings and management fees about 12%.
Okay, so what's that? 12% of what are we doing?
Sorry, 12% of the rent. Oh, for the rent, I'm just looking at my spreadsheet quickly here. Sorry, I should have looked at my spreadsheet. For the rent wouldn't be 1,200. Okay. The rent would be 840 gross, because that will be £70 for each room per week. So that's 840 per month for rent gross.
Oh, okay, 840 gross.
Yeah, so not 1,200 like I said. I was just thinking of another property then. 840 gross for rent.
Right, so we're talking 840 gross for rent.
Yeah.
And we've got to deduct the mortgage, the actual mortgage, the 169. What's the interest rate on that you're using to calculate that?
3%.
3%, okay. So let's assume it's 3%.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rose.
Hello?
Sorry, not Rose. Hannah, are you typing this all in on the screen? Because we can't see if you're doing that.
No, we can't see it on the screen.
I'm not typing it on the screen.
Okay, right, that's fine.
I was planning to, but I realized the presentation is slightly to me wanting to do that. So that's why I left the presentation. Right, okay. So what I'd like to do is just go back over some of the numbers that you've given us, Rose.
Yep.
You've said that the mortgage is 169 per calendar month at 3%.
Yep.
Management, you said, is 12%. 12% of what is the calculation?
12% of 840, me making it £101 a month.
£101 per calendar month. What else do you need to pay for?
Monthly operating expenses, sort of like the 10% for voids and things, let's say, £84.
Mm-hmm.
So those would be the own costs coming off the rent.
What else?
That's all I've got for now.
Okay.
There's also, as I found out recently, the cost of applying for an HMO license.
Absolutely.
You have big houses like that. It's not cheap.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yep.
However, what I would say is that I wouldn't take that cost as an operating cost.
No, it's not an operating cost. It's a license cost. But there's an application cost and then a license cost. And
yeah. So what I'd like Rose to tell us, or if anyone else can help with answering this question, is what other additional operating costs, as in costs that you will be incurred on a month-by-month basis? What other costs are those? Because you said it's going to be an HMO, right?
Yes.
So if it's an HMO, that means you're going to have to pay for something.
Yes. Sorry. The cleaners and the, I think it's the monthly, not monthly, the sort of like regular cleaning of the property is one thing that I hadn't included there. Thank you very much for pointing that out, because I did have the lettings fee for 12%.
Yeah.
But if it is going to be a house share, yes, definitely we'll need either the letting agent to undertake the management of the cleaning routine as well.
Yeah.
Because some of them up north actually do that as part of their lettings and management of the place.
Okay, but as an HMO property, what else are you responsible for? Do you know? Well, actually, it depends on how you set it up. So the answer that I'm looking for, can anyone what I'm looking at.
Bills, council tax.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Bills and specifically council tax. And
Yeah.
council tax, I would put a question mark against it. I'd also put a question mark against because it really depends on how you set up the HMO. With regards to bills, you can have an HMO where the tenants actually all pay their own bills. If, for example, it's electricity throughout, you can get the tenants to pay their own bills. But you need to really look at the market in that specific area. I know some HMO landlords where they don't pay any bills, the tenants pay all the bills.
Okay.
That's one thing. But you'll need to look at what the trends are in your particular area.
Yeah.
With regards to council tax, always assume that it will be your responsibility when you're doing your numbers.
Yeah.
In fact, I would assume that you're going to pay the bills as well.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you end up not paying them, then that's a bonus. But with council tax, what you may or may not have noticed is that some councils are now saying that yes, it might be an HMO, but actually every single room in the property has to pay its own council tax. So just be aware of that. It's
okay.
It's not very common, but certainly that's the case in Reading, down in Berkshire. That's the case in, where else is it that I know of? There's somewhere else where they do that. I can't remember. There's a couple of councils that have done that. And the VOA are really looking to bring that in because obviously that's more revenue for the councils. So just be aware of it. There was a court case recently where a landlord actually won, and the landlord was therefore not obligated to pay the council tax. But you'd have to look at, I can't remember the details of the case. If you Google it, I'm sure you'll find it. Okay. And then Lisa has also mentioned TV license. So I'm assuming that you're going to provide a TV in the property.
Yes.
So we're looking at, so we've got bills. How much are you allocating or putting aside for bills each month?
To be honest, I hadn't done that because once I found out that it had no HMO license, I got away from the idea of using it as a house share.
Oh, okay.
So I hadn't put down anything for the bills yet. And I think my rough calculations there would have meant that, you know, bills, council tax, utilities and everything would have been another 15% of the rent. 15%
of the rent, okay. So when I would often do an HMO calculation in my head, just to really calculate quickly the numbers, I always allocate £100 per person per room.
Okay, yeah.
And that will cover gas, water, electricity, council tax, TV license, cleaners, gardeners, and any maintenance. But that's how I used to do it, and that's London, as opposed to up in the Midlands somewhere. So if you want to start from that, that's probably a good place to start, which means that your bills will be how much per month? If we assume it's £100 per person, what's that going to be?
Oh gosh, £100 per month per person. That's £400 because there's 4 rooms there.
Okay, it could be less.
I would think it would be less because the cleaning routines are probably once every 2 weeks or something like that.
Well, it depends on, for a 4-bedroom house, it really does depend. But what I'm saying is that it could be 400, it could be 200, it could be 250, it could be 270, it could be 320. But the reality is it will be between X and Y. But you need to know, okay, are you going to just manipulate the figures to make the deal work? Or are you actually going to look at what's the best case scenario, but actually what's the worst case scenario? Because you don't want to be left carrying the baby. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah, I mean, once I looked at the figures for it being a single let, I thought it probably doesn't work very well because then the gross rent falls down to 550 per month for a single let.
Okay, fair enough. So
which then takes the yield in fact, it takes the yield to below 10%. And I think
I was going to suggest let's follow through with the HMO model first, just so that we'll get a better understanding to make sure that people are clear about what are all the actual costs and potential profit, and then let's go back to the single let. So we've talked about the HMO costs so far being £169 per month. Who's got a calculator ready, please? £169 per month for interest-only mortgage. We've got management fees of £111. We've got bills, £100 per person per month, and there's 4 rooms, so that's £400. What's the total of that so far?
680.
680.
Got 669.
Sorry, what was that?
For some reason, I've got 669.
Okay, let's 680. Let's go with 680, slightly higher. So, for example, all the expenses are 680, and your gross rent is 840.
Yeah.
How much are you going to make each month?
Well, not much, really.
Not much. Now, imagine the boiler breaks down.
Yep.
Imagine the roof blows off. So you obviously you need to make sure that you're paying for, there's a couple of extra things that you need to include in that. So insurance, for example, boiler cover. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So buildings insurance, and you might want, depending on the goods that you, or the furniture you have in the house, you may want to have contents insurance, but you may not. It depends. Joshua, please go ahead.
Hannah, please, could you break down what that £100 per person per month would cover? Because it seemed, because I would have thought insurance would.
It really depends on where the property is. So when I use the 100, I'm using 100 based on practical, actual figures for London. This property is up in Doncaster, where things are generally cheaper. Lisa might have a better view of what the prices are in sort of like the Midlands upwards, but I don't have knowledge of the Midlands. I'm only coming from a London perspective, and I'm talking about gas, water, electricity, council tax, TV license, and
Wi-Fi.
Broadband.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are generally I can't think of, gardener cleaner as well.
And does that also include like British Gas landlord insurance to cover things like your boiler breakdown?
It might do, but I think I'm just going with a ballpark of 400 because it's just easy to calculate. I mean, you can actually go back and look at what the actual costs were, but let's not quibble over £50 or £60. The reality is, if the costs are the way that they are, and total expenses are 680, and the maximum gross profit is 840, what's the difference?
Yeah, 160.
Is that even worth it?
No, it's not. I mean, as I said, I come to the clinics to listen to all this stuff, and I have learned quite a lot from today, because as I was, putting that on my spreadsheet, as an HMO, I did put in sort of like the usual, lettings and management and 10% management, all of that stuff. I hadn't actually included the bills and the cleaners. So that's definitely a wake-up call for me when I'm looking at these things.
And just, I don't know if the point was step away, but the fact that it's a 3-bedroom house and it hasn't got a license, is that 3rd bedroom even big enough to warrant letting?
Yes, that's the good thing about it. All the bedrooms are double bedrooms. They're all big enough.
Okay. And look, what Hannah is saying, and it makes a lot of sense. It's just a quick way to analyze a deal to see if it makes sense, even spending any more time on it.
Yeah.
£100 per person per room is just a yardstick. It's not an exact science. Just, if it's this, and it's always best to overstate your costs. And understate your revenues to see if it still makes sense. I would even argue that using 3% as a mortgage rate is too low.
Okay. You want to do it at 6%, really?
I'd say 6% or at least 5%.
6%. Okay. Yep.
At least 5%. I mean, long-term money is probably 4% right now. HMO, 5 years, you could probably get 4%. But I'd work it out on 5 at least.
Okay.
Overstate all of your costs, understate your revenues, and see if a deal still makes sense. If it's still worth your while, then you carry on, and then you might dig a little bit deeper and work out that it's not £400 a month for the bills; it's actually £320.
Yeah.
You want to know that there's enough margin in there to take account you've only let 3 rooms and you can't let the 4th room. So that could be all of your profit on that 4th.
Yeah.
And that £100 per room, sorry, for bills doesn't include the voids.
Yeah.
That doesn't include that 10% that you kind of estimated as £84. So we've quickly looked at it as an HMO. So let's now actually look at it as a single let property. Yeah.
Okay.
So for a single let property, what would be the gross rent per month?
550.
550. What do you have as a single let property?
Sorry?
What expenses would you incur on a month-to-month basis with a single let property?
That will be, again, the lettings and management, because I won't be doing it myself.
Yeah.
The mortgage interest.
Yeah. So the mortgage interest of 169. So let's just use the 169 because we used it for the earlier calculation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 169 interest.
Yeah.
And the management is what this time?
The management 101.
Okay. What else would we be paying for as a single let property?
Well, the 10% to cover anything else, and I think that would also include things like boiler cover and stuff.
So I would identify boiler cover and insurance separately as line items. Because remember, with a single let, you're not paying bills. You're just paying the basic. Tenants paying for everything else. So that's why I would, when it comes to a single let, I would actually identify the specific line items. And the 2 that are missing are insurance and boiler cover.
Okay. Yeah.
Is there anything else? What would be the cost of insurance and or the cost of boiler cover in that neck of the woods?
I wouldn't know. I haven't researched how much it would be.
That's your homework for next week.
Yeah, I mean, for boiler cover, if I remember, down here in London when I was a landlord, single let boiler cover was about 100 to 150 pounds a year.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So if you say £15 per calendar month for boiler cover max.
Okay, yeah, £15. Insurance, I completely forget what the insurance was.
Give us a figure, just so that we can do a quick calculation.
200 a year or something.
So about, say, £20 a month then.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've got gross rent of 550. Actually, let's add up the expenses first. So we've got 100, who's got a calculator? £169 plus £101 for management, plus £20 for insurance, plus £15 for boiler cover. How much is that?
305.
I've got 389.
Okay, hang on. No, it's not 389.
Oh, it's not 389.
No. Because 169 plus 101 is 270. Yeah, 270. 270 plus 200 is 290. Plus 15 is 305. Sorry.
Oh, what am I adding up here? Oh dear.
Sorry.
Have we got in the £84 for 10% voids and things?
Okay. Voids. So I was going to go for all the direct costs first.
Okay, yep. Yep.
Sorry, 169 plus 101 is 270. 270, 290. Yeah, 305.
Yep, 305.
So our expenses are 305. Our gross profit is 550. What's the difference between 305 and 550?
245.
Sorry?
245.
245 per calendar month, which is kind of average for a single let, actually, as net profit goes.
Right.
So imagine it's 245 per calendar month, and then obviously take off voids from that.
Yeah.
Because that then gives you almost what you will get on a regular basis, except of course when you have voids. And even for voids, I would allow 6 weeks in a year as a kind of void period. So I'd work out what that is, but that's just me.
Right, okay.
We're starting from a base of a minimum profit of £245 a month. The question is, would that be worth your while?
I think for up north, it is something I would take on. because I wasn't expecting to get, you know, huge cash flows from low value properties anyway. So 245 as net cash flow after taking everything off, I think is something I might consider.
Okay. And notice how it's much better than the HMO rate.
Oh, definitely. Definitely much better.
A lot less hassle.
Yeah.
A lot less hassle. That's why I said before, when I'm looking at the strategies I'm going for, I tend to shy away from HMOs because of the hassle, the amount of work involved, you know. But it's because this one, I viewed it as a house share before.
Yes.
That's the only reason I got interested in it. And I was only told after when I was inquiring again, they said, oh, the landlord, you know, hasn't got an HMO license. Because I asked them, why are you selling it as a 3-bed house when I viewed it as a 4-bed HMO?
Okay.
And they explained it all to me. She hasn't got a license. She can't sell it like that.
Yeah. So that's why, which makes perfect sense. So on that note, I'm very conscious of the time because we actually do allow half an hour for these sessions, but late we seem to have gone on to 45 minutes, and I'm conscious and I want to be really respectful of each of your times and the time that you've set aside for this. So unless has anyone got any immediate burning questions? Otherwise we'll be wrapping up for this evening.
One quick question. Okay, go first.
Why do you need to pay management fee for single let property also?
Rose, why would you like to pay management fees? I know the answer, but I want Rose to answer.
Because I won't be managing the property myself, so I pay the letting agent to do all the, you know, looking for the tenant and looking after the tenant, so they won't be calling me at 3 a.m. in the morning saying, Rose, the boiler is broken or anything like that.
Toilet seat's broken.
Tell you what though, the agent will call you the next morning.
Well, the agent will call me the next morning, yes, but at least it won't be that 3 a.m. call from a tenant who's really worried about, you know, suffering the cold all night.
But there are actually ways around it where you can self-manage.
Yeah.
Oh. You can put systems in place to mitigate that, whereby you actually give the tenant the number for the boiler company or the water company or whoever. But
but also because it's all the way up in Doncaster and I'm all the way down here in London.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I would go for a letting agent doing it for me.
Yeah, cool. Okay, thank you for that question, Joshua. Did that answer the question for you?
He's not happy with it. I self-manage everything. I don't use managing agents, and I'm all over the country.
But you do this full time, though, don't you?
No, I've got another business that I run. You know already. So I'm not running around to properties, even if they call me at 3 a.m, which they won't.
And I train them.
Yeah. Call me in the morning.
Yes, exactly. Because there's nothing I can do about it at 3 a.m.
I'm going to do it at 3 a.m. for you. Nothing. If you've locked out, too bad. Yeah, find somewhere else to sleep.
What about when your son calls you at 3 a.m. in the morning? That's the best one. So forget tenants. If you teach your children well, they will not call you at 3 a.m. in the morning when they come back from their night out and they've lost their key or whatever.
Yeah, I've had that.
Yeah. Right. Sorry, Bethany. Very quickly, your question was?
Does BPG also source properties, or do you guys just help people with finance and deals? Do you actually source properties for people?
Not for people, no.
No, not in that way, as like a sourcer would. We might sell on deals that we don't want to do, that are not within our range, because we are out looking for stuff, and if we come across something that's a deal but it's not in our remit, then we might sell that on. But no, we don't actively look for stuff for people.
Okay. And the other thing that we will be doing in due course is, for example, if we have a deal and people might be interested in sharing in some of the profits in that, then we'll obviously, you guys will probably be the first to hear about it because you come to the deal clinics regularly, so we can tell you about those sorts of opportunities. But we do need to go through some certain criteria with you to make sure you meet those requirements before we can even invite you to participate, I guess you could say. Okay, right. Well, thank you so much indeed for coming this evening. We really do appreciate having you guys on. I know quite a few of you have come on now. You've become regulars actually, which is really
Yeah, I was about to say that.
So it shows that you're really willing to learn and ask questions, which is really good. And I like the fact that you all do engage, and I do like that. What I'd like to do is to, again, I think I asked my host to this, which is to invite you to give us, please give us some feedback directly, either on the Facebook page or in the Telegram group, or just even on your social media page, just so that people can see that you're getting value. I'm assuming you're getting value. That's why you keep coming back. So just give us some feedback in terms of really enjoyed X, Y, or Z, and this is what it's enabled me to do. That would really help us, because we're giving up our time here to really to just be able to give back to the community and just to help fellow property investors to pursue their dreams. That's ultimately what it's about. And if we can help you in some shape or form, then so thank you so much indeed once again, and I look forward to seeing you all again next week. Please tell a friend and get a friend for next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Bye.